All right, the next four, the Jaguars picked C.J. Henderson, the Browns took Jedrick Wills, Jets took Makai Bechten, and the Raiders kind of surprised some people, not us, but they drafted Henry Ruggs. Jacob and Charlie, what do you think about these four teams?
Yeah, I think this is where we started seeing some of those surprises or less predictable picks. I think the Jaguars going with Henderson made perfect sense. They needed a cornerback. Charlie, you had correctly reported that Henderson was moving up towards being a top 10 talent, and lo and behold, he ended up going at number 9. So I don't think that was too big of a reach there. I might have liked to see them go with receiver at this point and then targeted a cornerback at 20. But given that Kayvon Chason ended up being on the board there, I think that ended up working out well for them because they added 2 key pieces to their defense. So I thought that ended up working well. The Browns, they were always favored to take a tackle. I thought Isaiah Simmons might slip to them. I didn't know if the Cardinals would take him if he was on the board, but they did. Wills ended up being their preferred one there. I don't have too many thoughts about that. It just made sense for them to take a tackle, and so long as they were getting one of the top 4 guys, it made a lot of sense for them to go that way. One of the most interesting picks, I think, and this speaks a lot about what the New York Jets are trying to do with their roster, is the Makai Bechten pick. I had mocked Becton to the Jets on many occasions. I can't remember how many consecutive times I did, but if you look at what they've done on the offensive line and what they've been doing, adding players to this team under Adam Gase, they've been looking for really big, really athletic guys. That's why they signed George Fant to a deal worth $10 million a year. That was really surprising to a lot of people, myself included, because he's just a massive athlete, and Becton fit that same mold. So I think they're kind of targeting those types of players, seeing if they can build a really big, really athletic team. And you see with their second round pick too, they got Denzel Mims, who was a steal at 59. I thought he should have been a first round pick. His catch radius is insane. His athletic ability is off the charts. And, I think if he can separate more as a route runner at the next level, then he'll be in a better shape. But even if not, going to be a great jump ball receiver. So I think the Jets looking for those athletic guys really paid off. I like what they did in the draft. And they also got Bryce Hall in the 5th round. It's coming off a brutal ankle injury, but I like his talent a lot. And I think that he could very easily pan out if he's given time to recover as a starter on the outside. And then at 12, the Raiders, this was something you guys had reported, that they were targeting Ruggs or Lamb, and you couldn't really tell which one it was, and you guys ended up going with Ruggs, and that ended up being correct. It really feels like a Vegas pick. He's a really strong and fast guy who's going to add a whole nother element to their offense. So I liked that one. I probably would have gone with either Jeudy or Lamb over him, but I don't have too much of a problem with it.
Charlie?
I looking at these teams, the Jaguars, I kind of have mixed feelings with. I don't have a problem with the players. C.J. Henderson and Chason, I think, were worthy top 20 talents. My issue more is that turning down the 19th overall pick for Yannick Ngakoue, which the Raiders offered. And I think that was a big mistake, because now you basically drafted Ngakoue's replacement in Chason. You're not going to pay Ngakoue a huge amount of money and then have him or Josh Allen or Chason on the bench. You got 3 guys that are essentially doing the same thing. So to me, if your plan was to take Chason, I would have done the deal even when you're getting close to the clock or on the clock there at that 19th pick. So then they come away with C.J. Henderson, Chason. They could take Justin Jefferson and Shenault and end up with 2 receivers to go with DJ Chark, or you could take Clyde Edwards-Helaire or DeAndre Swift, and then you have your replacement for Leonard Fournette. It doesn't seem like he's going to be there a whole lot longer. You could have taken an offensive line help. To me, I think they made a mistake there, because I'm not sure they're really going to end up getting a better deal than getting a top 20 pick there, especially when he's refusing to sign an extension. What if he sits out and then the trade market dries up and you're only getting a third round pick for him? To me, it's just too scary to turn down a top 20 pick in that situation. So aside from that, I thought the players they drafted were fine values at each spot. Wills, I think the Browns made the right call there. I think that was a fine pick for them. Definitely needed tackle help. He can be a left tackle and pair with Conklin to really improve their edge blocking for next year. I think Delpit could end up being all right, but I do think that the best thing for him would be to have a year kind of almost like a redshirt season in the NFL to get stronger. Helping him get stronger, I think, is going to help the tackling issue, because I think he's most natural and shows the best play when he's kind of that strong safety closer to the line of scrimmage. So having him get stronger, I think, is just going to help improve the tackling issue and give him more confidence as a tackler. So I wouldn't rush to put him on the field right away if I were the Browns. Becton, I completely agree with Jacob, and the pair there with Fant, just the size and athleticism on the edge for the Jets is so much better than what it was at the end of last year. I think Sam Darnold will really benefit from that. I thought their day 2 picks were okay, but I definitely really like what they've done with the offensive line and Van Roten as well and free agency. I think that line is going to just be so much better. And then Ruggs with the Raiders, I think, the Raiders in some ways, I feel like they're 2 different drafting teams. When they take an offensive player, it's because John Gruden has a plan for that guy and he has a fit for that guy within their scheme. So whether it's Ruggs or Josh Jacobs or Colton Miller, they really kind of had a plan for those guys. But when it comes to the defensive side, I think you're seeing Mike Mayock kind of have his guys, and that's why you're seeing some big reaches with them, whether Cleveland Farrell at 4, Arnett at 19. I think Mayock's I think he's just kind of reaching really for the guy he likes rather than maybe trading down and taking the same player. And to me, if it was 19 and the phone was dead and they can't move down, then okay, you got a stick and pick. You may as well take the guy you like. But Mayock said in interviews afterwards they could have moved down, but he decided against it. He just wanted to take Arnett. But as we had in our day 1 recap today, I spoke with teams and they said, yeah, Arnett would have been there at 32. He probably would have, so they didn't have a second round pick to trade up for, but they definitely could have, if Mayock is, correct, he said they couldn't move down and didn't. So I think Ruggs makes sense for their offense because they really needed speed at receiver. And their third round picks, I think, will help them as well. I really like Lynn Bowden. I think he's a sleeper. Same thing with Edwards. Really tough wideout in the SEC, kind of went under the radar. So I think Derek Carr's receiving options just got a lot better. And with Tyrell Williams and Hunter Renfrow, they have some depth. So if they have injuries, the passing attack should be able to manage and continue to roll with the next guy up. So I thought the Raiders, I liked their picks on offense. The defense, not quite as much.
Yeah, they have a lot of receivers now. They have those 3 to go along with Tyrell Williams and also Hunter Renfrow. I wonder how they're going to utilize all those guys. And also, obviously, they have Darren Waller. So it just seems like too many mouths to feed at this point. I was a little shocked they spent 2 third-round picks on receivers. I thought, definitely 1 would make sense, but then 2 is kind of confusing what their plan is offensively. And I don't like the Ruggs pick. I mean, he was my number 4 receiver. I thought this was a reach, like especially with Jeudy and Lamb available. I know that he was not going to be available at 19. Like we know that. So So the Raiders, if they liked him a lot, obviously they did. They had to take him at 12. I just didn't like it. I don't really like the fit either, because at least not with Derek Carr, because Derek Carr checks the ball down a lot, and Ruggs is a speed guy who wants to catch deep passes downfield. And it's like, how often is Derek Carr going to do that? I just don't like the fit. And then Arnett is, I do wonder. And Charlie, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but given that the Raiders thought they might get a deal with Ngakoue and trading 19 for Ngakoue, do you think that maybe they sort of didn't have a concrete plan because they thought they wouldn't have the pick?
Yeah, I think that kind of could be the situation, because when we heard that, obviously we heard they liked Ruggs, so we put that in our mocks. And having them pass on Lamb and Jeudy. And then as well, about hearing the trade, we had heard that Patrick Queen was in discussions there. And then he obviously was available, and they passed on him for Arnett. So I think that they felt that trade was going to come through. I mean, they sounded pretty confident of that Wednesday night. The Jaguars people sounded, like it could happen. And so just talking with people around the league, it sounded pretty promising. So the Jags people were optimistic. The Raiders were optimistic. And then nobody budged. So I think they both sides thought the other one would come around, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like that might have been the case, because they at least should have traded down. The Becton, I agree with what you guys said about him. They had to go offensive line. Sam Darnold's pass protection last year was so bad, especially when Beecham was out. And I like the Mims pick. Mims, I definitely agree with what you said, Jacob. Mims should have maybe gone in the first round, or at least early second, and then he slipped to them in the middle of the second, which I thought was a steal. The Browns did not pick Ezra Cleveland, it turns out. So that was kind of bad information from Peter King, but they did make the right move, and I think the Browns did a good job of smoke screening everyone, and no one really knew what they were going to do. Although, I mean, Wills, I'm sure some people had that pick right in their mocks. I mean, it was kind of a logical fit, and I thought it was the right move. He fits their zone blocking scheme very well. So I thought that was the correct tackle for him, and I liked the Delpit pick as well. Yeah, he needs to get stronger. Although I do wonder if he was protecting himself a little bit last year. I think that may have been the case. So I think that was kind of a steal, because a year ago he was projected to be a first-round pick. And then the Jaguars with Henderson and then Chase on. It's solid moves. I don't have an issue with it. I thought that they probably should have gone in that direction if teams are saying that Henderson should have been a top 10 pick, then he obviously wasn't a reach. And then I have to believe they were shocked that Chason was available, considering that, there was some rumors that Atlanta liked him and Dallas definitely liked him, but the Cowboys were shocked that CeeDee Lamb fell to them. All right. The next four, the Buccaneers trade up one spot to get Tristan Wirfs. The 49ers picked Javon Kinlaw. The Broncos went with Jerry Jeudy, and the Falcons I think the first big surprise in the first round was AJ Terrell. So Jacob and Charlie, what do you think about these four teams?
Yeah, again, I like a lot of these fits. I'm not big on the Terrell fit. I think he was a little bit better than people were giving him credit for, but I don't think he should have been a top half of the first round type of guy. I think he's very athletic, and he has all the tools needed to be a successful outside corner, but he needs a lot of work at the next level. I much preferred Atlanta's day 2 haul. They got Marlon Davidson and Matt Hennessy, I believe, are the two players that they got. I really like both of those guys. I think they fill pretty big needs, because Hennessy can start at left guard over James Carpenter if they want him to. And then Davidson can play next to Grady Jarrett and add some better pass rushing ability there. He's kind of versatile inside, outside, and added a lot of weight in the offseason to get up to 303, I think. So I like both of those better. Terrell could work out, but I think he's going to have to do a lot of work with, I believe Raheem Morris is still there in Atlanta. So I think he'll have his work cut out for him there. I love the Bucs pick of Tristan Wirfs. I mean, we talked about it earlier. Wirfs could have been a top 4 pick. Biggest need on the Buccaneers offense was right tackle. And now they got a really athletic guy who should find success on the outside at the next level. He was a starter at right tackle at Iowa, so it could be a plug-and-play option. And, on the off chance that he can't hold up on the outside, he'll still be an excellent guard, and getting one of those at 13 isn't terrible value. I liked their picks throughout most of the draft. I gave them an A in my draft grades for the NFC. Love the Antoine Winfield pick. I think he could end up being a steal because of his ability to, track the ball and create big plays. So I think that helps out the Bucs defense a lot. At 14, I thought the 49ers did a good job of trading down, picking up an asset that they needed to, and still getting Javon Kinlaw, who should be a good replacement for DeForest Buckner. Didn't love a lot about the rest of what they did, but they also, they had 2 first-round picks and then had like a few at the end of day 3. So that was just kind of a weird situation. They did pick up Trent Williams, though, to replace Joe Staley, which is a really good move on their part. As for the Broncos, Jerry Jeudy for them is going to be excellent. He was my top receiver in this class. They've added a ton to that receiving core and a lot of weapons. They have the speed with KJ Hamler. Cortland Sutton's a good all-around receiver, and Jerry Jeudy has the potential to be a number 1 with route running ability and, enough speed and elusiveness to break big plays in space. So I'm excited to see what Drew Lock can do this year. I really like that Jerry Jeudy pick. I thought the Broncos had a solid draft. They had some picks that weren't quite as good, but overall, I think everything that they did on offense, including getting Albert Okwuegbunam, was really strong, and the weapons they have are really exciting.
I'm excited that you said that name correctly because I still have trouble with it. Charlie, what are your thoughts on these 4 teams?
Yeah, I thought Tampa Bay had everything break their way to get one of the 4 offensive tackles, mocking it out. It looked for a while that could happen, then maybe not. Then it ended up working out there, and they can make a slight move up to guarantee they got Wirfs. Fills a hole at right tackle. Definitely dream come true for the Bucs there. I think Antoine Winfield and Keyshawn Vaughn were solid day 2 picks, guys that can come in and contribute. Might not be full-time starters right away, but they could be both good rotational players that contribute as rookies. So thought the Bucs had a solid draft, a good draft overall. San Francisco, Kinlaw makes a lot of sense as that replacement for DeForest Buckner. That was a huge hole for them because given what Buckner gave them last year, I don't think you could just replace him with anybody. He was so special with the disruption and pass rush he provided on the inside of their line. And without him, I don't think Nick Bosa hits the ground running as well as he did in the NFL. So getting Kinlaw, he's going to be cheap on that 5-year contract. With Armstead and then with Bosa, that's really wise moves there by San Francisco. I wasn't as big of a fan of the Ayuk pick there late in the first. He's had injuries. Some teams had him graded lower. But then also, he really is similar to Deebo Samuel. I think he's not quite as good as Deebo skill set wise, even though Deebo went lower than where they took Ayuk. But they kind of have 2 of the same guy there. And I think it would have been, they may end up feeling like they should have had a different kind of receiver, maybe someone with more size instead of these 2 guys that are like 5'11", to kind of give them some more options and mismatches depending on the cornerbacks they're facing on a weekly basis. So that was my only qualm really with that pick. If they had say another big receiver on their roster, then I think Ayuk would have made more sense. But we'll see. I have a hard time disbelieving the wisdom of Kyle Shanahan because he's been phenomenal in terms of his scheme and employing the players he has. So obviously he knows what he's doing. Denver, I thought, had a really excellent draft. I thought Jeudy is a great fit across from Cortland Sutton. I think they could be a tremendous tandem together. And then Fant at tight end and Alberto with them. I mean, just the weapons now that in KJ Hamler in the second round, a speedy slot receiver, I mean, the Broncos really had an amazing offseason in terms of weaponizing their supporting cast for Drew Lock. When you add in these guys and Melvin Gordon, that offense just has so many more playmakers than it did at the end of last season. So well done, John Elway. And then I thought some of their other picks, they did a nice job just getting some depth on the offensive line with Cushenberry, and in the secondary with Ojemudia, the solid picks, all the way around there for Denver. And then Atlanta, I agree with Jacob that Terrell was a reach at 16, and he's a better athlete than he is player right now. And I mean, the tape just gives you all the everything you need to see as far as that goes. I mean, the national championship game, LSU just used and abused him. I mean, they went after him, and he looked borderline helpless out there. But he's big and fast, and Raheem Morris definitely knows what he's doing with defensive backs. So I think he could develop him. I think that it would help Atlanta if they didn't have to force him onto the field right away, but I'm not sure they're going to have the luxury of time, and they have the veterans there to play over him, and they're in a win now situation. So that one will be interesting to watch. But I think if I were the Falcons, I mean, you don't know what the option. We don't know all the options, but I would have been more inclined to give up my second round pick to move up for C.J. Henderson and get a legit number one, than stay at 16 and end up taking kind of the B grade cornerbacks of the first round.
Yeah, I thought they should have traded up, but once they couldn't trade up, I thought they should have moved down. I know they were in discussions with the Eagles. The Eagles wanted to move up to 16 to get CeeDee Lamb, and Atlanta wanted their second round pick, and the Eagles didn't want to give that up, and we'll discuss that in a bit. But I think that Atlanta should have moved out or moved up. I agree with what Charlie said about moving up. Terrell, I think, is a slight reach. I know the Vikings had interest in him at 22. So they couldn't have moved down that far and drafted him, but still, I think he was awful in the national championship for sure. But I think he got a bad rap about that game because he was playing with a 103-degree fever in that game. So kind of like we didn't see the best out of him. And I think that he has a lot of talent and he could live up to it. And I'm not like completely down on the pick. I just think they should have traded out or they should have moved somewhere. The Jeudy pick I thought was great, and so was Wirfs. Jeudy with the Broncos, I mean, they have so much talent now with Drew Lock. We have this question, will he have a breakout year? I think that's definitely possible. I still have doubts if he can be a good quarterback, but he definitely has all the talent in the world to work with now with Sutton and then and Jeudy, and they also drafted KJ Hamler. Two good tight ends, and they upgraded the offensive line. I thought they got Nate Moody in the 6th round. I thought that was a steal, and Cushenberry should help in the interior. So there's definitely a lot to like about the Broncos. I was already high on the Broncos entering the year. I thought they were a sleeper team. Like they lost so many games last year in the last seconds, like a lot of bad luck with them. I think they could be a nice sleeper. And I mentioned Wirfs already. The Buccaneers is good move by them trading up one spot and making sure they got him because apparently some teams are calling to trade up for Wirfs. I'm not sure which ones, maybe the Dolphins, but good move by the Buccaneers, making sure that they can protect Tom Brady. And then Antoine Winfield in the second round was a steal. And the 49ers to Kinlaw, kind of like a tale of two picks in the first round. I thought moving back for Kinlaw was a very sharp move. Considering that they didn't have much draft capital to work with. They had the 2 first-round picks, but they didn't pick again until the 5th round. So moving back was a good move. But then I thought they made a mistake moving up for Ayuk. I'm fine with Ayuk as a prospect, and taking him at 31 would have made sense. I thought they should have traded down into the 35 to 45 range and got another receiver. They could have got a receiver kind of the similar talent level as Ayuk. And so they moved up for him. It didn't seem necessary to me. So kind of like a mixed bag with the Niners. But, as Jacob said, getting Trent Williams, I thought was a great move considering Staley's health.